sarcasm. So this morning, I just wanted to wrap up for you where we're currently at on the upcoming budget, fiscal year 24-25. Run through the decision packages with you, along with John's recommendations, and provide you an opportunity for you to weigh in and let me know how you'd like us to proceed. We have, with John's recommendations, is a budget of approximately $378 million. 284 of that is just for our ongoing operations. About 60 million would be for debt service, 20 million for community economic development expense, and then about 14 million for capitals. In the capitals, about 8 million of that is for conservation projects, 3 million is for vehicles, and the remaining 3 million is for general services and IT capital improvements. On the recommendations for the decision packages, we are recommending that we proceed with the items requested by the Behavioral Health Division. So adding a staff position to be paid from Fund 10 to do research and analytical work for the MHDS. Also adding in a position to work on the Health and Human Services redesign and the MHDS realignment. Those are 2 items that were requested through Annie's shop. On the conservation, recommending 2 of the 3 seasonal positions that were requested. These positions would work for 6 months. That's why it equates to 1 FTE. Also in conservation, going ahead and making the part-time conservation laborer to a full-time construction technician. Increasing the equestrian center part-time hourly pay, that would simply align those positions with the pay increases that had been provided to other areas in the equestrian center last year. Conservation asked for numerous line items to be adjusted, such as feed for the animals, just inflationary adjustments that we are recommending that we go ahead and adjust their appropriation. On Sleepy Hollow, adding an administrative specialist, 1 FTE, and then also adding facility attendants, 14 of them that would be at half-time, so it's 7 FTEs. Those positions would be dependent upon the new facilities opening up. The administrative assistant we would bring on earlier, but the facility attendants would be dependent upon operations actually beginning. And then also for Sleepy Hollow, they've asked for about $2.6 million for operations and capitals. About 1.3 million of revenue is projected to be earned from Sleepy Hollow, so that would offset the 2.6 million. We are suggesting that they had asked for about $875,000 of capitals within that 2.6 million. And that was mostly it was for a ski groomer and also to acquire equipment for snow skiing rentals. We're asking that before they proceed with purchasing those items, they actually let us know and keep us apprised of the schedule to make sure they're still on track for their anticipated opening date. They say they need a year's lead in order to acquire the equipment, so we just want to make sure before they order it that they're actually on track to open as anticipated.
Deb, the MHDS research and the HS redesign. Now, the HHS redesign is not going to happen until July of 2025.
Okay.
That'll take effect July of 2025.
Okay.
Isn't that what we learned yesterday in our meeting?
That's when it takes effect, yeah.
Is that correct? Because
Yeah.
you'll be in
I'll be in
Hawaii and
yeah.
Maui then.
Right, you can let me know
as
how it
I
goes.
understand it. And so, I'm not sure, do we need that position right now?
Okay. Yep. I will ask Annie.
If you would, that'd be great.
Mhm.
And then the research, I can't remember why we needed the research and analytical services.
Do you remember?
Anybody remember that?
I don't remember on that one
Okay.
what we were doing.
Redesign?
Yes.
I'm not sure why we have to get that in the budget right now.
Unless they're having to do, for the realignment, they're having to do,
Yeah,
I mean,
do
I
an
know we gotta
analysis.
prepare for the RFP, because that's coming out in April. Which is crazy in itself that we gotta go through all this again for a whole new way of doing mental health, but I don't know.
It might be, remember they had the IT person? It might be the read.
Oh, you're right.
Of him
Because we're not
going-
gonna have that
Right,
contract
it was
anymore.
a contract and now it's
Exactly.
not.
Okay, that's the research and analytical service.
I
okay.
think, I don't know.
I'm
for
pretty sure that's what it is. Okay,
I think you're right.
well then we'll ask just on the, other, okay, thank you.
And while you're on that page, just to give you a heads up, I think this will bring a budget amendment. The Sleepy Hollow Administrative Specialist, that's around getting them open and operational. If you recall, they're going to do something, is it Memorial Day?
Yes,
A grand opening with that ski thing. So we're gonna, have a budget amendment to enable them to bring that person on a few months before the fiscal year starts, because they're gonna need that staff support for the grand opening.
for opening,
Yeah, yep.
when they can't handle a few months or what? Apparently,
What's that?
they can't handle a few months?
Well, it's good, this is the person they're on, in charge.
Because we were discussing the changing the opening date there for a while. Has it been changed? Did we change that?
I think it's gonna happen in May now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they were
The
talking
tube's
about
gonna
putting
be
it
ready
back
in
to
May.
27, 28 or something like that for a while.
I don't know, I can't keep
They
up.
moved it from spring break to May.
Right, that's right,
Which makes sense. Be nicer weather probably.
nicer weather,
And school will be out.
Yeah.
okay,
Any other,
for the heads up on the budget amendment.
any other comments on this slide? No. Okay. Continuing on, the recommended decision packages would add one county attorney legal assistant. Two were requested, we're recommending one at this time, and then let's just wait and see if that helps alleviate the workload. And then going ahead with the Victim Offender Dialogue Program, that provides funding to the people, I believe, that sit in as mediators or on that program. The admin building cooling tower, we would be anticipating bonding for that. The cost estimate has come down from what was originally put in the decision package, it's now estimated around $600,000. In the jail, going ahead and finishing off the feed ports in the remaining 56 cell doors. We would also be able to bond for that. And originally, the request was for a larger number of doors, but a physical count was done, and we've determined that 56 doors is the correct amount. Going ahead and providing funding for the bulletin board, televisions, and protective enclosures as needed. This would be pending some additional investigation into whether we really need the cages, whether you truly need all 26 televisions, and maybe if there's some cheaper prices that might be available out there. And then also proceeding with installing Wi-Fi in the jail facility.
And the Wi-Fi and the others be paid by bonds?
Correct. We're allowed to equip facilities through
Okay,
bond proceeds.
great.
Wellness initiatives, this is going ahead and making the two pilot programs and ongoing programs. Jeff had said that he just wanted a placeholder for the one that brings in the physical therapist.
Right.
He's still gathering data on that, so we're putting the funding in there, but he says, you know, if it doesn't pan out as being effective, he would not proceed with that program. And then adding some money in for the risk management staff for cell phones for them and also membership fees. And then going ahead and adding 6 interns through the pilot program at a cost of $108,000.
Deb or John, either one, you know, Kimberly Graham asked for a social worker during her presentation, and we kind of kicked that around and said maybe she could team up with Annie, or how'd that ever turn out? Did we ever get that resolved?
Yeah, that'll be in the not to fund, but Annie's in conversations with the county attorney's office about what kind of support she can provide. I think there's some realization here that there are some difficulties or problems associated with embedding a social worker within the county attorney's office.
Right. Yeah, I remember that part. I just didn't know how we resolved it.
I talked to Annie about it. They went to Story County yesterday, I think, to check it out. It's called the LEAD program, the Law Enforcement Assistance Division, I think, something like that. And they have a gal that's an intern doing their practicum, not right now, that the county attorney wants her to start this program. She went up there with Annie and her team to Story County, and really what they do, as I understand, they really concentrate on 18 to 24-year-olds that either, for public intox or, a marijuana charge. And, if they go through a program, a treatment program, 4 days consecutively or something like that, they get their record, off. And it's really targeting that age group, which makes sense because they're in a college town. And so what we need to do, Annie thought, was get the data first to see if that's a real really something that we have at our jail, which I think Frank said we really don't, but I don't know that. Anyway, right now, we don't need a social worker. That's the bottom line.
Right, in that area.
In that
county-
area.
County attorney's office, right.
Right. So, Annie did do a class of some sort, right?
Presentation to
Yes.
explain to the criminal bureau what type of services were available through behavioral health,
Yeah,
and that they could provide those services through that department rather than in-house at the county attorney's office.
yeah.
Duplicate what's already been done.
Yeah. Some of them were amazed at all the services that we do provide, so I thought it went very well, I guess, and she's gonna have a follow-up for the ones that couldn't make it. And so, I think we're on the right path for all of that.
Yeah, I think the intent of what we're trying to do here is very good, which is
Yeah.
doing it right.
Yeah, and I think that gal that Kimberly has doing the work right now, I hope the gal's getting paid, I don't know.
No, she's doing it for credit for her practicum. She needs it to get her PhD.
Oh, okay, well, anyway, I think we'll learn a lot from whatever she's doing, I'm assuming. So she's not getting any money?
I don't believe I think she's doing it for school, not for pay.
Okay, whatever. Okay,
Thank you.
that's what I know.
All right, thanks.
Okay, also recommending the roadside spray truck. That would be paid for from revenues from the crop seeder over a couple of years of revenues coming in from that. We would be setting aside seed money for the Wetland Wave Revolving Loan Fund program. Be about 6 years that should be returned to the general fund, but that's needed right now to upfront the cost, and then the reimbursements come from the other entities. We are recommending that the tasers be replaced at a cost of $224,000, and also increasing the appropriation for inmate costs, just simply the cost of inflation on food, clothing, that sort of thing. We did ask that the jail equipment that was previously paid out of the capital improvement program in general services be moved over to the sheriff's operating budget instead. So providing funding for them just to move that cost over to their budget. And also recommending that the appropriation for postage be increased for the treasurer's office due to increased postage costs and mail volumes. We are recommending that in Veteran Affairs, we do add the financial assistance clerk. You'll see in a later slide that we are not recommending the other certified veterans service officer. We're hoping that this would help alleviate some of the workload. Okay, here is a slide of the items that we would be recommending be not approved. The pretrial release program funding, the armored vehicle, the legal assistance, as I said, we're recommending one of the two be approved and one disapproved. And we just talked about the social worker. On the jail facility, they had asked for a storage system that John has mentioned is like a dry cleaning system. We don't see the need for that at this time, so recommending that that not be funded. The general services, after discussions here the other day, they went back and reviewed that and determined that they do not actually need a bucket truck. They can get by with some other options. Again, no to the veteran service officer position. And for the seasonal naturalist and conservation, we recommend 2 of the 3, so 1 would be disapproved. In conservation, the admin assistant from part-time to full-time would be disapproved. Conservation did identify that as one of their lower priorities, as well as the other 3 on there. So we went ahead and took their recommendations, or disapproved their lower priority request. Other items, we are intending to earmark about $1 million as a matching grant program for the school radios, pending further investigation there. Also, during the discussions with the health department, they talked about the Wise Woman grant, and so we'll be putting in about $39,000 to replace the funding that was lost from that grant to provide cardiovascular screening. And as John mentioned, we would be allowing conservation to hire their admin specialist for Sleepy Hollow around April 1st, rather than waiting until July 1st. So in total, those recommendations in the general basic fund increase our ongoing expenditures by about 800,000, our one-time expenditures by 100,000, adds 5.3 FTE positions. Did I correct that? Yeah, sorry, that, I didn't correct that. Yes, so that's 3.3. And then adding 2 million in 8 FTE positions for Sleepy Hollow. That would be a loan to Sleepy Hollow that eventually, when Sleepy Hollow becomes profitable, they would begin sharing in the profits and returning the loans. In the other funds, which would be anything other than the general basics, so general supplemental, the rural funds, the debt service funds, the capital funds, our recommended decision packages would increase ongoing expenses by 1 million and 2 FTE positions. Those are the those positions are the behavioral health positions, and 5.4 million of one-time expenditures.
Just to make sure I understand, the 2 FTs down there were in the 5.3 above?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So out of the general fund, we're only increasing 3.3 FTEs countywide.
Something like that. I have to double check that. We made a change when we went through and we talked about it the other day, and I don't think I fully incorporated it. Sorry.
Okay, while you're thinking about that, I do want, since we have someone here from the sheriff's office, I know there was some talk about the radios, and we're setting aside $1 million for the radios. And I know that John had mentioned to Frank that we're having AJ in his shop look at whatever the intermobility group or whoever those people are, kind of look at what's going around countywide. Now, you notice in the last week, there have been 3 bomb threats in our schools here in Polk County. I think it's been 3. I might be mistaken. I know one at Lincoln
One at Perry,
and Ankeny. Yeah,
Centennial.
okay, so, anyway, I mean, it's perfect timing that we talk about this, so, it's not taking away from the sheriff on what they wanna do at Southeast Polk and, you know, the schools that he has his SROs in, but I think it's, prudent on us to, while AJ does emergency management, take a look at as a whole on what we do and what we not do in all of our schools. So if they can have some other ideas on what we should do, I think it's nice that we take a look at it. So, of course, we have jurisdiction on schools that the sheriff has SROs in, but if we can start talking about everything else that's happening in Polk County, I think it's a good thing that we link all this together. And I would hope that the state, since they're sitting on money, as I understand it, for schools, and schools need to participate, we'll see where this lands. So I just want to let you know that it's not like we're not giving them the money right now. We're trying to figure out how this all works and puts together, as I understand it.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, no, it's looking at, look at the whole county. So we have a sense of the need and a priority for what has the biggest impact. And not just isolating just those schools. We have
Yeah.
SRO officers. We have a lot of other schools in this county as well. So at the next month's, I guess it's this month's, Metro interoperability meeting, where they talk about making sure all of our systems work together. We asked this be on the agenda there, part of the discussion, so we make sure that whatever is done, either in the schools that sheriff proposed or other schools, that we make sure that the broad spectrum of law enforcement and emergency personnel get adequate notice. So I think, and then we also learned, as you mentioned, Angela, that the state may have some funds available, and then have conversation with the school districts. So I think this is, the intent, again, here is good, but let's make sure we're doing it right, and we're getting as much funding from the state and potential schools, so we can leverage what we're putting in to have the greatest impact for the highest priority needs.
Right, just so you know, probably the study, or whatever you want to call it, is going to include not just Polk County communities, but Waukee and Norwalk, because, which is Warren County, obviously. They're clients of Westcom, which is on the same radio, shared radio kind of interoperable system that we have here in Polk County in Des Moines, so all has to go together. So it'll be a little bit more than just Polk County, just so you know. And that's probably a good thing in the long run, but that's going to be a little twist to it, a little different, I guess. But the state has money for various things, these schools, and part of it is hardening the entryways and those kinds of things. And does it apply, the question is, does it apply to elementary schools, does it apply to junior high schools, I mean, how many schools are you talking about here? So all those things aging and Dutch need to be looking at, and they will, but it's quite the thing, quite the undertaking,
It will be quite the undertaking, I think.
yeah.
And see what data's out there, which schools have faced the
And
most
some are already
likelihood of threat.
Some are already there. I mean, they already, Prairie High School was one that was very advanced in their technology, so interestingly enough. But some of them aren't.
Okay.
Okay, circling back on the FTE count here, I did fail to update that. It's 3.3 of new positions in the general basic fund. We had previously had 2 in there for the pretrial release program, but due to recent developments, we changed that, and I just didn't fully update the slide. So, my apologies.
I did have a question on that pretrial release piece. There's an article in the paper today about that, and unless you're somebody who's kind of a county official or Department of Corrections or something like that, it's really in the weeds. I mean, it's hard to understand and it's hard to follow and all that. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, even me, I mean, I'm not that connected with this issue, but I know enough to be able to read how to read these things. If we are not going to be funding $255,000, who's going to be taking care of those services? State doing that? How does that work? Pre-title release. Pre-title release. And we're apparently getting out of the business, and we're not funding $225,000, so who's going to be doing it?
So we don't know what the state's gonna do yet. And then, so we'll see what kind of level of services the state actually is gonna provide and deploy, and then we'll have to react accordingly we'll look at other ways that we can try and identify anybody in the jails that could be out, working with Annie's shop, try and minimize jail population. Is there a scenario in which we come back later in the year that we want to stand up a separate intensive pretrial program? That could happen. We don't know yet. And what we do know, though, is we need to see what the state sets up so we can build, if we want to, build upon that and take away this, frankly, non-cooperative meeting we had where they wanted us to duplicate what they were doing and pass cost on to us that was their statutory responsibility in the first place. So that's why we're taking a pause here and see how they're going to handle running the 5th Judicial District now that they're in charge, and then we'll keep you abreast of what we learn, how they're doing their job, and if we want to make any modifications or any additional services beyond what they're doing.
So we don't know what's happening yet.
But
We don't know what's going to happen next, okay? All right.
Sarah, anything you want to add?
Okay, so the remaining items to think about, if there's any changes that you would like to the county administrator's recommendations, anything else you'd like added in or subtracted, and also we do have in there just a placeholder for the salary adjustments for bargaining positions, so we just need a final decision at some point on what percentage to provide for those individuals.
Levy rate.
The overall levy rate will remain unchanged for in the urban area. 677, I believe it is. The rural will go down about 10 cents. That's due to House File 718. House File 718 capped our rural basic levy rate. Now, instead of 395, it's around 385, so that would come off of the overall levy rate.
Right.
Just as a reminder, there is a new mailing going out to all property owners this year that is required to be sent out March 20th. We need to have our information in, hopefully into Iowa Department of Management by March 5th, so that they have time to compile all the data. And the mailing that goes out from the data that everyone submits would provide the following. It would provide what our current property tax amount and our current levy rate is. What would be next year. The effective rate means what if in fiscal year 24-25, we generate the same dollar amount of taxes based on the new valuation. What would the levy rate have to be? So the levy rate would obviously go down because you have greater valuation, but you were still generating the same dollar amount of taxes. And then also the next line would be, what are we proposing to levy next year for the tax dollar amount and the tax rate? And then if you're intending to bring in more tax dollars in 24-25 than you are in 23-24, which we are, we need to provide a detailed statement of the major reasons why, and that will be listed on the mailing as well. And then there will be an example comparing the current year taxes on $100,000 residence versus the previous year taxes, and what that percentage change will be due to the levy, due to the rollback, and we're maintaining a constant levy rate in the general basic, or in the urban area. That will actually show a decrease. The rollback is increasing, so there's a lesser amount of your property valuation that is being taxed. So it's gonna show about a 15% decrease there. And then the date, time, and location of the public hearing, which we have scheduled for March 26th.
Do you have that form to show all that?
I have a template from Mike Albers, and so I've penciled in what ours might look like. There's some pieces that I'm not quite certain of. There's a piece in there about TIF that I need to sort through. But yes, I have a mocked up copy of what that would look like. I can provide to you
That'd be
when
great.
I need to sort out a
Spelled
few more
out to every
pieces.
taxpayer then,
Mm-hmm.
look like the mailing.
And it will have, I mean, I don't know if you can see it from here, but it's like this size, is that size font on both sides is a ton of detail. It has all the city, or it has the schools, the county, the cities, all on there, and it's a lot, it's gonna be overwhelming information that goes
The
out.
idea that the average taxpayer is gonna get this and understand what the disclosure is all about, I mean, it's just, the whole thing is just ludicrous.
It's real.
It's
Costing taxpayers more money.
Exactly,
Yeah.
They should
exactly,
put that in there.
yeah.
Is
they
that in there? How much it actually costs to provide this?
It could be in our list of detailed reasons why.
We could put a footnote to, the cost of this mailing was
Based for the
brought to
state.
you by the Iowa legislature and cost you X amount of dollars.
We should.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We sent it to X amount of homes and it cost you
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah by the state of Iowa.
Mhm.
Not a bad idea,
Every county's gotta do it too, right?
huh?
Significant expense.
It is a
Yeah.
significant expense and
It
it's
is.
stupid.
Yeah.
And every county's gotta do it, right?
Mhm.
Yes, every county's gotta do it.
And
Whose
it-
brainiac idea was it?
Statewide, we're talking about millions of dollars.
Oh my God,
Yeah, it gotta be.
wow, okay, what's next, Deb?
All right.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so just to kind of wrap up where we're at on the property tax, we did see an 8.1% increase in the taxable valuation. Due to House File 718, our general basic fund cap is reduced from $3.50 to $3.40. So that's 10 cents coming off, and each penny generates about $320,000. So that's where, when we previously talked about the board's budget, there was a $3 million hit from House File 718 in the general basic fund. Going forward, that $3.40 will be the new cap for 25-26 per House File 718. That will be reduced again next year, and it will be reduced annually so long as our taxable valuation growth is greater than 3%, which historically has always been greater than 3%. So next year, I would think we'd be around $3.33, and every other year would be about 7 cents coming off or 10 cents coming off, depending upon whether it's a reassessment year. If ever we fall below 3% growth in taxable valuation, we do reset to $3.50 as the new cap. A very similar thing in the rural basic. As I said, we're going down from 3.95. Oh, we're going down 12 cents coming off, sorry, not 10. And that is a much smaller hit to our funds because each penny only generates 29,000. So it's not as big of an amount of money coming off, but it does impact our rural basic funds. And again, will be adjusted down every year going forward. We
So
would
I
be-
can interject here. In summary, we get penalized for being successful and growing, or rewarded for being unsuccessful and not growing.
Yeah.
Just perspective.
It hurts all the growing communities, and it's especially difficult for a city like Ankeny, that's opening a new school building every year, Waukee, and
West Des Moines.
yeah, I just don't know what I just don't know what the end game is for growing communities, because they're gonna stifle the growth at some point by not allowing them to provide the services that the people need, which is the reason they moved to the community.
I don't think it helps the non-growing communities either that much. That's what I can't figure out. I mean, this is supposed to be this equalization kind of thing, right? I mean, that's kind of the idea, I think. But there's probably 92 counties in the state that have no growth or negative growth. Does it help them? I don't see how it does. It doesn't help them at all, so they get harmed too. But the growing communities, your economic engines, they're the ones that get penalized a bit. Brilliant, really.
Sorry, I just had to interject that. Thanks for adding.
Okay, beginning next year, also we will begin bonding for more items than we previously had. We were previously paying for capitals and housing commitments from our general basic fund. Due to the levy rate cap, we're now going to shift to bonding for those items instead. And then, as Bob asked, the total levy rate for 24-25 will be $677 for the urban areas, which is unchanged, and the rural levy will be $1121, which is a slight decrease. The remaining budget process at the end of this month, I will ask you to adopt a resolution to set the public hearing to talk about the proposed property tax dollars. So this is the public hearing that will be announced through the mailing to the property owners. March 15th is the deadline to file the information for that mailing with Iowa Department of Management. However, they've asked for it to be in there by March 5th. So hopefully by March 5th, we have our final decision on anything we might want to do differently with the property tax dollars. That mailing will be mailed out on the 20th. And then on the 26th, we will have a meeting for that public hearing on the mailing. That has to be a separate hearing, or a separate meeting, and it has to occur before we can set a public hearing to certify the budget. So on that same day, we'll need to do the public hearing, close the meeting, and then start the regular board meeting. Then at the end of April, we will have the public hearing to certify the budget, and we will be finished.
So it's a good time to retire.
You may have said this, and I may have missed it, Deb, just on the 27th, that's a regular board meeting. We thought we could just do it in conjunction with the regular board meeting rather than having a separate meeting.
Yeah, that's fine.
So if there's any changes that you'd like implemented, please let me know. I will ask Annie about when that position needs to start.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you for all the work you guys do on the budget.
Yeah, very good.
Well, if you guys want any changes, let Deb or John know. Soon, apparently.
Make sure you have a spare room in Maui's.